Digital games are completely transforming the gaming industry, with over 83% of all game sales now happening digitally. But what most people don't realize is how this shift is revolutionizing everything from game preservation to environmental impact.
Those numbers are pretty striking. What made you start looking into this transformation?
Well, I had this eye-opening experience at a midnight release. Picture this. I'm standing in the freezing cold for hours, only to find out they're sold out. Meanwhile, my friend is already playing because he preloaded the digital version. That's when it hit me how outdated the physical model really is.
Hmm, that must have been frustrating. But what about the whole ownership debate? A lot of gamers still feel strongly about having that physical copy.
You know, that's actually a common misconception. When you buy a physical game, you're still just purchasing a license to play it, exactly the same as digital. The difference is that digital copies can't get scratched, lost, or damaged. And get this, studies show that the average physical game disc starts degrading after just 15 to 20 years.
That's a pretty sobering statistic about disk degradation. How are people handling game preservation in the digital age?
So here's what's fascinating. Digital preservation has become incredibly sophisticated. Modern gamers are using a combination of cloud storage, NAS systems, and external drives. I've actually set up a system where my entire library is backed up in 3 different places, and it automatically syncs my save files across devices.
The technology has certainly evolved, but let's talk about the environmental impact, because that's becoming a major concern.
The environmental data is actually staggering. A recent industry study showed that producing and shipping physical games generates about 20.8 kilograms of CO2 per unit. Digital distribution? Just 0.017 kilograms. That's more than 1,000 times difference.
Those environmental numbers really put things in perspective. How are developers responding to this shift?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The digital model has completely transformed game development. Indie developers, who could never afford physical distribution, are now thriving. In fact, digital-only indie games generated over $2.8 billion in revenue last year, creating this whole new ecosystem of innovative games.
That's a remarkable transformation of the industry. But what about internet access issues in rural areas?
You raise an important point. About 15% of American households still lack reliable broadband access. However, the infrastructure is rapidly improving. The recent infrastructure bill allocated $65 billion specifically for expanding high-speed internet access, which will help bridge this digital divide.
Speaking of infrastructure, how are gaming companies handling all this digital distribution?
The scale is mind-blowing. Steam alone handles over 8 exabytes of data transfer annually. That's 8 billion gigabytes. They've built a network of content delivery servers that can push updates to millions of users simultaneously. And here's what's really interesting. Digital distribution has actually reduced game prices over time when adjusted for inflation.
Those are some impressive numbers. How do you see this affecting the future of gaming?
The trends are pretty clear. Digital game sales are growing by about 21% annually, while physical sales decline by roughly 8% each year. Game subscription services like Game Pass are exploding. They grew 142% just last year. We're moving toward a future where games are treated more like services than products.
That's quite a shift in the industry model. What would you say to someone who's still on the fence about going digital?
Here's what the data shows. The average gamer saves about $300 annually through digital sales and subscriptions. Plus, digital games are updated automatically, backed up securely, and accessible across multiple devices. The convenience factor alone is transforming how we think about gaming libraries.
Those savings are significant. Any final thoughts on where this is all heading?
Looking at the industry projections, digital gaming is expected to represent 95% of all game sales by 2025. This isn't just a trend, it's a complete transformation of how we experience, preserve, and share games. And when you look at the environmental impact, the convenience, and the way it's democratizing game development, It's clear that this shift is ultimately beneficial for both gamers and the industry as a whole.
Thanks for breaking all this down. It really helps put the whole transition in perspective.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. And hey, at least we'll never have to worry about scratched discs again.